So what we're going to do now is what we call a care table talk. I think it's important first for us to understand why I'm even doing this, right? Because again, when I wrote the book, had no plan about how I would market the book or any of that. That really wasn't on my mind. It was about writing this book. It was about giving a legacy to my sons. And it really wasn't about the promotional side of it, to be honest with you. As I happened into this experience with finding out that there were so many other caregivers out there who had gone through what I'd been through, I said, okay, it kind of hit me at 3 o'clock that morning that, okay, this is where I'm going with this. So what we tend to do in these forums is just talk about caregivers, their experiences, and my hope is that this book will end up in the hands of caregivers and people who are going to care for people, A, to prepare you for when that does come, or B, if you're in it or you know someone who's in it, that it will help them to be able to acknowledge where they are, give them some suggestions about how to do things a little differently, and just enable them to feel like they're seen and they're heard. They're heard, really. So that's kind of the backdrop. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit to Christine, to Hans, and to Christine, who are all in the midst of caregiving, and talk about the challenges and how to maybe help other people beyond the room who could see this and learn from it. Fair enough? Yes. Okay. So Hans, we'll start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you're caring for and who you are as a person?
Okay. For those who don't know, my name is Hans Marschleck. I am caring for an 8-year-old autistic child named Zoe, who was born at 1 pound as an emergency C-section, and it's been an 8-year journey, and it has transformed me, but I just said yes to this not knowing it would be so heavy. But I'll get technical before I get personal.
Yeah.
The first thing you should know is that everyone here has this exact ministry. What you don't realize is as we're heading toward the end of time as Christians, there's a lot more mental health issues in the world. People are more in despair because they're less in control of things around them. And the clinical part is the state that you're in and the political structure you're in goes a long way to the foundation and to the whole aspect of being a caregiver. If you're stuck in a state with less funding and less resources, your journey will be 10 times as much painful. After 8 years, the other thing you need to know is that those who have been through the most pain know exactly what to do. So if you are faced with an emergency caregiver situation, find someone who has done that. In my small arena with someone who is extreme premature child, I cannot say enough to people who find themselves in this way. Get off your rusty dusty, head down to social services, sit there as if you own nothing, fill out the mountain of paperwork to get yourself registered, because it will come back to reward you when millions and millions of dollars of medical bills hit you. So there are things called like care at home waivers. There are things that are structured by the government to assist people in specific instances. And if you don't do the work and the time, go down for accessoride and sit there for 4 hours with your sick person in their embarrassing state, because you will be able to now get transportation at a fraction of the cost.
Christine, tell us a little bit about you and who you're caring for, who you are.
My name is Christine Guerra. I am a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and I'm caring right now. Well, I'm kind of new to this caregiving thing. I'm helping my parents. My mother, who is in the early stages of Alzheimer's dementia. So this is all very new for me. And I'm a little shaky right now because we did have an episode this morning, and I'm just still trying to process that.
Yeah, it's okay. Speaking of Alzheimer's, I'm not sure that we're aware of how silent of an epidemic it is. and how the numbers are slated to really explode in the next 10 to 15 years, specifically in Latin American and African American communities. Women are affected 2 to 1 as compared to the Caucasian communities. And because I talk to a lot of people now, I see the similarities, right? That we don't see in our individual worlds. You probably never thought about this before, right? But it has a huge propensity in the Latin American community and in the African American community. And the funds that should be going to research are not going to research. So when we think next time about funding or supporting some causes, we want to make sure that that's on the top of our list, because it is actually something that those communities will suffer from and are suffering very silently from right now. So just my little passionate point about that. So let's talk about emotionally. Hans, you've been doing this, I guess, for 8 years now. And again, what people don't know is that about 48%, I think, of caregivers are actually between 18 and 48. We think of caregiving as something that's an older person problem, that you go to Florida and you take care of, your older spouse. But in fact, almost half of the caregivers are young, and that would be you. So tell us a little bit about what that does to you emotionally. Let's talk specifically about depression. And if you've encountered that, or how have you dealt with it emotionally? Because that has to be challenging, at a younger age.
I had one rock bottom situation, and it's funny, but I'll share it. So my daughter was born November 2nd, and Christmas Eve, they wanted to give her last rites.
Ooh.
And I didn't know what that was. There are coffins in every NICU.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Call your priest. I'm like, I don't even talk to a priest.
Wow.
Because as a Seventh-day Adventist, sometimes we get culturally boxed. Okay. So it's like, so at that point, I called anyone, people who didn't even pray. I'm like, but then I literally went into NICU because we're sleeping in hospitals. I was in hospital for 15 months. Mm-hmm. And I folded up all my clothes. My wife was like, what are you doing? And it's like, a nice neat pile. I just said, whatever you give me, God, that's it. And I bawled. And then she pulled out, and 8 years later, she's still here. So, that for me was the rock bottom.
Right.
Because I would have to accept whatever. You talk about, until my spirituality was really plastic.
Right.
And not real.
Right.
So it's like, thy will, not my will, like really hit the road, because at that point you have no control. There's nothing you can do.
I have moments where, yes, it's sad, but I think I've always also, I try not to dwell, and for me, it's really more about finding a solution or how to move this forward. And in my mind, I'm also a healthcare, I'm a physical therapist, so I think I'm also just mentally prepared myself to kind of see, like, I know this is not going to get any better. It's going to get harder. It's going to, it can go any which way.
Right.
And I'm just trying to take that in, and what's happening now, or the condition of my mother and my parents now, is I try to make the best of it.
Right.
So, and knowing that it could be worse or it's going to get worse, I try to just make the moment happy and try not to let myself fall into kind of a dark state, or dwell on it too much.
And that's an important point. Through this experience, Christine is in the book because she says something to me that really resonated with me.
I told you I was in the book.
Her name has changed. Everyone's name has changed. But she said something that resonated with me. Should I leave it to or tell it?
No, well, actually, the reason why I gave you that advice in the book is actually from my own caregiving experience.
Oh, so why don't you tell that then?
So, my caregiving experience actually was from my aunt, who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer many, many years ago. It was a Christmas day when she said she didn't feel well, something was wrong, and I took her to the hospital, to the emergency room, and that's when she was told she had ovarian cancer, and basically she had a tumor the size of a 6-week fetus.
Wow.
Yeah, no, 6-month fetus, sorry, 6-month fetus. So it was really big. And, we went through this whole journey with her. It was a 3-year journey, and we ended up being at the hospice with her. And it was, I remember, never forget, it was a Sunday evening, it was many, many people. And we came to that point where she came to that point where she said she's lived the life that she wanted to live, and she, was done with treatment and what have you. And so we were trying to figure out who was going to be there with her.
Right. Okay.
Who was going to be there with her? Who was going to go through this whole process with her? And it was somewhat of a comical situation because everybody, it was an argument. Everyone was like, well, I don't know. Everyone had their calendars started filling up.
Somebody wants to be there for that.
No, it was like very bizarre situation, and I remember the hospice nurse saying, you don't need to worry about who's going to be there, where you're going to be, because God will make sure that whoever needs to be there when they need to be there, they will be there.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about it. And
I get it now.
you get it now. So there was an evening where I went to visit Dom in the hospital, and after I finished meeting with Dom, I called Rochelle, and she was I won't give away everything, but she was telling me about this experience that she had, and I said, well, Rochelle, you don't have to worry about that, because God will make sure that you are supposed to, whoever needs to be where they need to be, when they need to be. You don't have to worry about it.
And that's one of the things you learn.
Yeah.
Right. So you're still early days, but that's one of the things you learn.